Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. I hope you are all doing well today wherever you are watching from. Before we begin, take a moment to relax, because today we have a story that might touch your heart in a very unexpected way. Before we begin, don't forget to support this channel by following and sharing this video so more people can hear stories like this. Now let's start the story. Maria woke up early that morning like she usually did. The city was still quiet and the light from the window slowly filled her small apartment. She was around 32 years old, a Christian woman who had already built a respected career as a judge in the local court. Her life looked organized and calm from the outside. Every morning started almost the same for her. She would make a cup of black coffee, sit at the small table near the window, and read a few pages from the Bible. It was a habit she had since she was young. Her mother used to say that starting the day with God would keep a person on the right path. On Sundays, her routine was a little different. Maria always tried to arrive early at church. The church was not very big, but it felt warm and familiar. Many people there had known her since she was still studying law years ago. Some of the church members liked to joke with her. They sometimes called her God's judge because of her job. Maria usually just smiled and shook her head a little when she heard that. She never really liked too much attention. After the service, she often stayed for a while outside the church. Sometimes she talked with a few people, sometimes she just sat quietly on a bench watching the street. Her life felt stable. A good career, respect from people, and a clear future ahead. Monday mornings were always busier. The courthouse started filling with people early in the day. Lawyers, clerks, police officers, and citizens who came with their problems. Maria walked through the hallway with quick and confident steps, holding her work bag. Even though she was still quite young for a judge, many people believed she was fair. She had a habit of reading every file carefully and listening closely during trials. For Maria, the law had to stand on facts and evidence. That afternoon, she finished several small cases. A land dispute between neighbors, a debt argument, and a minor shoplifting case. Things like that had become normal parts of her daily work. During lunch, she sat alone in her office with a simple meal. Sometimes moments like that made her think about how far she had come. Years of studying law, long exams, and finally the position she held now. Late in the afternoon, a court clerk knocked on her door and placed a stack of new case files on her desk. Cases scheduled for next week's hearings. Just another routine task for a judge. Maria opened the first file and started reading. It was a small theft case from a traditional market. The suspect was an elderly Muslim woman who sold fried snacks. Maria slowly continued reading the report, not realizing that this simple case file would soon become the beginning of something she had never expected in her life. The day of the hearing arrived a few days later. The courtroom was not very crowded that morning, just a few people sitting quietly on the wooden benches. Maria walked in wearing her black judge robe, her expression calm like usual. To her, it was just another small case that needed to be handled. Soon the clerk called the name of the defendant. An elderly Muslim woman slowly walked into the courtroom. Her steps were careful and a little unsteady. She wore a simple old dress and a faded headscarf. In her hands she held a small cloth bag, the kind people often used in traditional markets. Maria looked at her for a moment before the hearing began. The woman looked thin and tired, maybe around 60 or even older. According to the report, she sold fried snacks near the market entrance every day. The accusation said she had stolen some groceries from a nearby stall. The stall owner stood on the other side of the room, looking a bit impatient. He explained that some items were missing from his stall, and he believed the old woman had taken them. It sounded like a simple accusation, but Maria had heard many simple accusations turn complicated before. When it was the old woman's turn to speak, she stood quietly for a moment. Her voice was soft and a little shaky, but her words were clear. She said she had never stolen anything in her life. Selling fried snacks was the only way she could earn money to live. As the hearing continued, a few witnesses were called. One of them was a young man who worked in the market. He hesitated a bit while speaking, like he was unsure about something. Maria noticed that and started asking more careful questions. Little by little the story began to change. The young man eventually admitted that he never actually saw the old woman take anything. Someone else in the market had started the rumor, and it spread quickly. The stall owner had simply believed what he heard. Maria leaned back slightly in her chair while listening to the final statements. The evidence was weak, and the witnesses could not confirm the accusation. After a short moment of silence in the courtroom, she announced her decision. The court found no proof that the elderly woman had stolen anything. The accusation could not be supported by evidence. The old woman was declared innocent and officially released from all charges. A quiet relief filled the room. The old woman lowered her head and softly said thanks. She looked grateful but also a little embarrassed by the whole situation. Before leaving the courtroom, she gently said a few words that caught Maria's attention. She said that she had prayed to God that the truth would appear. That night, Maria could not stop thinking about the case. Something about the old woman stayed in her mind. A few days later, after finishing work earlier than usual, Maria decided to visit the traditional market. She wanted to find the elderly woman and ask her something she had never really asked anyone before. She wanted to understand more about the faith the woman had mentioned so calmly that day about Islam. A few days later, Maria finally found the small fried snack stall in the corner of the traditional market. It was simple, just a small cart with a pan of hot oil and a few trays of fried bananas and tofu. The elderly Muslim woman was there, slowly turning the snacks in the oil while greeting customers with a gentle smile. Maria stood there for a moment before the woman noticed her. At first, the old woman looked a little surprised to see a judge standing near her stall. But Maria quickly smiled and greeted her in a friendly way so the woman would not feel nervous. They started talking in a very simple and relaxed way. Maria told her that she had been thinking about their meeting in court. The old woman listened quietly while preparing a small paper bag of fried snacks for Maria. Maria then carefully asked the question that had been in her mind for days. She asked why the old woman looked so calm during the trial, even when she was being accused of something serious. The woman just smiled softly. The old woman said that she had prayed to God many times that morning. She believed that if she was truly innocent, God would not leave her alone. She said that in Islam, people are taught to trust God even in difficult moments. Maria found herself listening more seriously than she expected. There was something honest in the woman's voice. No complicated words, no long explanations. Just simple faith from someone who lived a very humble life. Over the next few weeks, Maria came back to the market several times. Sometimes she bought snacks, sometimes she just sat nearby and talked with the old woman. Slowly, their conversations became deeper. They talked about life, about patience, and about belief in one God. Maria also started reading about Islam on her own. At first, it was only curiosity, but the more she read, the more questions appeared in her mind. Many of the teachings about justice, mercy, and responsibility felt strangely familiar to the values she always believed in as a judge. One evening, after a long conversation with the old woman, Maria felt something change in her heart. It was not sudden or dramatic. It felt more like finally understanding something that had been waiting quietly for a long time. Not long after that day, Maria made a decision that surprised even herself. She chose to embrace Islam. For her, it was not about rejecting her past, but about following the truth she felt in her heart. The elderly woman who once stood in her courtroom was now the person who helped guide her to a new chapter in life. And sometimes life really changes in the most unexpected ways. A simple court case, a humble old woman selling fried snacks, and a conversation in a small market ended up changing the path of a judge forever. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to follow this channel and watch the next videos for more inspiring stories like this one. You never know which story might touch your heart next.